Welcome to episode 46 of the World Builder's Anvil. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram, and today's topic, world building trap, world to store. Welcome back again, and like always, I'd like to thank you for listening to the show, and please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. Click on that download button. Even if you don't listen to me through there, it does really help. Some people say that they don't like signing up to iTunes because there's a credit card required. That is not true. Last I knew, the last option in iTunes was to select no card to access the application. Go in there, access it, start it up every once in a while. That way it'll keep downloading the subscriptions and will keep other people finding the show who needs it. Now, into today's topic. The thing you have to think about is if you've listened to the previous 45 episodes, you've been inspired from people like Don Metcalf and Aaron Wood and Ray Elliott. And you're looking forward to more inspiration from people like that. And you've sat back and you've conquered the fear of starting to put down on paper this world that swirls in your mind. And you've compiled so much on your world from all of the wonderful topics. You've answered every question I've given you diligently. Your world at this point maybe has, more volumes than the Encyclopedia Britannica. You've developed 99 cultures, 154 races, 543 states that span over 5 quadrillion, 502 trillion, 532 billion, 127 million and 1 square feet of your world. You are exuberated. You are flowing with the power. So you finally grab pen and paper and you start scribbling down the Battle of Gethpador. Stop. Relax. Breathe. There are many, many ways to tell your story. You don't need to share all 543 states in your first work. You don't need to share them maybe in all of your works ever. What you do need to share is what's relevant to the story. Now, the danger is, especially when you framework build a world, the danger is you start trying to shove it all into a book even though it doesn't make sense because you need them to understand the exact evolution of your 99 cultures. Even if all of the cultures aren't in the book, you don't need to do that. There's a few things that you can do. One, flash fiction, short stories. Maybe you go out to other sites that have that stuff and you share stories with them, and maybe they publish them for you to help drive traffic back to your site. Maybe you give away short stories to your email newsletter, and you let people know that, hey, you go to email newsletter, and you will get free short stories. Good things to do. They'll allow you to tell shorter stories that happen wherever you want them to that actually help share the details of your world. But if you try and force it all into one novel, one work, you're eliminating story, because you have 75,000 words to tell a novel. Your work can't end up bigger than the Encyclopedia Britannica. Not one story. No one wants a story that long. And maybe some people do want a story that long. There's probably an audience for everything, but in general, people want shorter stories. Once you start going over a trilogy, people are going to be more and more suspicious that it won't finish. So you have to hop in. If you want to share some other stuff, use it as a way to market the novel you're making. So once you've stopped and you've relaxed and you've breathed in the air and you've thought about it, if the way you're starting to tell your story is by sharing all the details of your world, stop, go back, and re-outline your story. Or create one if you haven't. because you either don't have a story that you're trying to fit into a novel, or you have a novel story that you are shattering and removing scenes from to share your world. And worst case, if you really want to give it all out, go the old school gazetteer. I'll put some links into the show notes for it. Go old school and do a Silmarillion for your, which is a short story anthologies, I believe. But come up with a different way to do it. Create an encyclopedia for your world if you want to share out your world in that way. And there are probably more people who will read that if it's in a format they can apply towards a game or towards their own imagination. But don't put it in your novel. The novel's about the story. If you're doing a game, it's about the story, not about the world. You got to remember that. The story is more important than world building for the person who consumes the world, in most cases. The rating for this episode is basic. All world building traps are basic because there's something that either I have inclination for, or I've talked to people who have inclinations towards them, or they sound plausible to me. So those are the things I'm going to talk about when I talk about world building traps, or things that are basic things you have to watch out for. Hold back that 5 quadrillion piece world. Write great stories off of it. The world building task for the day. Create an outline for a story you want to tell in your world. And start writing. Just start writing. If you don't have a world at this point. If you've been listening to the show and you've been at least doing some of the things I've been talking about, you have a few basic things to go off of. Pick one of them, create an outline, and run. Just write a story. It could be like 1,000 words, 10,000. It doesn't matter. Just write a story in your world from beginning to climax to finish. And you will be better off for it. The real world task for the day. My favorite love letter note day. Write a love letter to your loved one, and they will love you back. There's a special note here. My wife left me one the other day, and I was not expecting it, and it completely knocked me off guard. And it made me all sappy, all crybaby, like I wasn't a real man. But I was. But it just really caught me off guard. She said the right thing when I needed to hear it. Short little love note, probably took her 10 minutes to write at the most, probably 2. And it made my day. The tease for this episode is interview with G.N. Frost. And as always, make sure to go to gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com for the show notes. It'll be under podcasting, World Builders Anvil. That's a great place to get all of the information from the episode that you've just listened to and to see all the resources that we've talked about in this episode. Thanks for joining us this episode of the World Builders Anvil. Please be sure to rate and review us in iTunes, and please help get the word out to your friends about our show. And join me, Jeffrey W. Ingram at gardul.com to see the progress of my world and learn why I made the choices I did. And please contact me and let me know the topics you would love to hear in the future. Now strike while the myth rolls high.